Courtney and welcome to my channel. If you haven't already checked it out, I suggest watching my April TBR or to be read video where I go over a few books I want to read for the month of April, as well as touching on different aspects of the Read Like a Gilmore challenge that I'll be participating in, and just some other fun updates. Also, feel free to follow me on my Instagram and my Facebook channels because that's where I post a lot more frequent bookish content, more so than here on my YouTube channel where I usually post just once or twice a week. So today we are wrapping up the month of March. So that feels like so long ago. I don't even know. It's already April. I can't even believe it. And yes, this video is coming a little bit later. This video will be coming out, oh my gosh, April 5th, 6th, somewhere around there. Clearly not the end of March or 1st of April when I usually should have them done by, but it's all good. I have my tea bag full of the books that I read in terms of print version, and then I had a few audiobooks I read as well. So in total, I read 8 books, 4 were print, 4 were audiobook, and the total number of pages was 2,656. So in this Always Fully Booked planner, there is a spot for me to write in like the books that I read, my favorite book, and like color code and everything. So I've been having a lot of fun with that, and then I love doing the page count too. So that has been cool to see how many pages per month. Let's see what I did. I didn't put this in my other videos, but let's see what February had. February was 3,635 pages. Ooh, well, I did 9 books that month, so that makes sense. And January was 2,451 pages with 9 books. So, I don't know, kind of interesting. They have this stats page too, which I haven't filled out yet. It's like a quarterly check-in. So I wrote, current loves. I'm currently loving the Bridgerton soundtrack or score. So ever since we just heard that Simon, or the actor that plays Simon, is not going to be returning to season 2 of Bridgerton, I'm like, no. So I'm like listening to the score again to kind of get into the vibe again of the show, but that's okay. I'll fill out the rest of this later. What current loves, book, that's gonna be hard to choose. Author, also hard to choose. Character, TV show, movie, food, beverage, and place I visited. Place I visited, I don't even know. Did I go anywhere this last quarter? I don't even know. So hopefully if this was done like a few weeks later, I could put potentially Florida, which is like the only vacation I'll be having in the first half of the year, I guess. But anyway, reading goal progress as a quarter check-in, 26 out of 100 books read, which I think is pretty cool. And that's pretty much on par. So if you think about a quarter, like exactly 25 would be me being on track. But now that I'm 1 book ahead, I feel I have a little bit of a cushion. We'll see how long that lasts. And then total reading pages, total stats of the books that I read. So I read 8,998 pages, 15 print books, 11 audiobooks, 1 reread, and that was Chamber of Secrets, and 2 did not finish. So that, not necessarily that I won't come back to them as DNFs. It was Beartown by Frederick Backman, which I started, I think at the beginning of February, but I just wasn't in the right mindset for it. And then I jumped into I Miss You When I Blink instead and like loved it, and then just didn't come back to Beartown. And then also Promised Land by Barack Obama. That is just, I also need to be in a good headspace for that. And because there was a lot of like political drama and stuff happening in the United States, and probably still is, I wasn't in a good space to listen to more about politics, even though like I admire him and I want to hear his story. I just needed to wait on that. So that is still on hold at the library in terms of an audiobook. So it won't be a while until I get that back, which is totally fine. So I need to fill in memorable moments from this past quarter, goals, progress, and books I need to read in the next quarter. So that one I'll pick up on with the April TBR, so feel free to check that out. That doesn't cover all in the next quarter, at least just in the next month, but I really need to think about, which ones do I definitely want to read? I did get some fun book mail. But anyway, we are not necessarily reflecting on the whole quarter. I'll be writing a blog post about like my quarter check-in, but we're just gonna be going over the month of March. First book I read was Eleanor Oliphant is Completely Fine by Gail Honeyman, and this was probably the best book I read in the month. It was the first book I read, and I'd started this a little bit at the end of February, but I wanted to like wholeheartedly jump into it in the month of March. So this follows Eleanor as she is dealing with a lot of like different mental health kind of stuff, a lot of stuff in her past having to do with her sister, her mom, and just going through a lot of interactions socially that she's not very comfortable with, or she's not picking up on cues. And she's like trying to go out with this guy like she's never met, but she just noticed from afar, and she's like planning things out in her mind of what their first date will be, what their like her bump in mute cute moment will be, even though like she's seen him before and it won't necessarily be a meet cute. And she's just dealing with a lot, and it's very heavy, and you slowly get revealed what happened in her past that has made her so reserved or not very trusting, or kind of like a shell, like keeping within her shell a little bit. And it's just cool. Like she does talk about, like in this subtitle, like is completely fine. She goes over that because she does like see a therapist, and goes over like, what does that mean when you say you're fine? You're basically lying to yourself, you're lying to other people, because nobody is really that fine or like that. There's a lot to unpack with that word, and she slowly starts to figure out, like, not necessarily just say that, but like admit to herself what is wrong. So yeah, I just appreciate it because it is something that goes deeper into mental health and like how we deal with it and how others help us with that or maybe react to it. So I just feel like it covers a lot of different angles with that. It does go by like pretty quickly, and like there's some like sarcasm, there's some like funny like dry moments in there, which I love that kind of humor. But yeah, awesome book, 5 out of 5. Then I have Fallen Kingdoms by Morgan Rhodes. So this was one of my picks for y'all to vote in my March reading vlog poll I did on Instagram, but this did not win. But I read it anyway because I wanted to for the month of March. And this follows like 3 different, I guess, houses. If you know like Game of Thrones, there's the land of Mythica, and it's like divided into like 3 different segments of like the north, middle, and south. Like that, those aren't the names of the lands, but you can just imagine a map that way, or I can just show you. This is the map of Oranos, Limeros, and Pelgiop. I don't know if that's how you say their names, but there's like different families of like royalty that we're following, and like their knights and like the common people. And it's just interesting because there's like some mystical fantasy elements in there that drives a lot of the characters' motivations in terms of power and wanting to rule over the rest of the country, land. And yeah, it starts off with a death of a common person by the intended of a princess, and that kind of fuels the fire a little bit and makes people want to fight over the land and kind of get back and get revenge. So a lot of different characters. I learned a lot about you never know which character is safe. So there's a surprise in there. It is part of a series. It's a young adult fantasy novel, but I've heard about this through Books Nest, or Beth at Books Nest, and she raves about the series, and I'm excited to read the next few books in there, but I'll have to wait on that. Then we have American Street by E.B. Zoboi, and this was recommended to me by another bookstagrammer at the Black History and Books event held at the Cincy Friends Library event or building in Cincinnati, and this was amazing. It's a young adult novel, but it talks a lot about immigration and policing and race. So this follows the story of Fabiola. Her and her mom are flying in from Haiti, so they get off in New York, but when Fabiola and her mom try to go to Detroit, where her family lives, or the family that is our United States citizens live, the mom gets detained and tells her daughter to go ahead and continue on to Detroit to meet with the family. So from there, it just goes into a whole lot of detail about like acclimatizing or acclimating to a new area. So like Fabiola like starts to embrace like her cousin's way of life, and that kind of gets her into trouble later down the road. And there's a lot of consequences thereof with her kind of taking on more of like their lives, or like not necessarily like trying to fit in, but just like exploring new elements of life that she didn't think were possible, or like she just didn't imagine for herself when she lived in Haiti. Or it just looks a little bit different with like how she handles like people that are aggressive or like are trying to manipulate her or get under her skin. But yeah, amazing. I loved the Haitian elements in there that she brings into the family. Like the family itself, they do have those roots, but they are more inclined to like American lifestyles than Fabiola is. So yeah, I thought this was very profound, very moving. I think it's a good book for young adults or any age, but if you're wanting to learn more as a younger person about like immigration and, like I said, race and adapting to a new lifestyle, like this would be a good one. Then we have The Midnight Library by Matt Haig, and this was my March reading vlog selection, so feel free to check out that video as well, where I go into a lot more detail of my thoughts of this. But basically 5 out of 5 stars for this. This covers the life of Nora as she is trying to figure out where, like, what is left of her life. Like she's basically wanting to end her life, and in between her overdosing and like fully being like death, like on the other side, she enters this middle space where the Midnight Library comes into play, where she can live out different regrets that she had and like try to change, like what would happen if I did X instead of Y or whatever. So she goes into like lots of different lives and sees what life could have been like. And while this is happening, like she's slowly losing time in this world between life and death. So she needs to decide if she wants to live out one of those regrets all the way through, or if she wants to return or end up or keep her like initial plan of like dying or taking her own life. So yeah, it, like I said, it takes up a lot of space in terms of like mental health and like depression, and brings it to the forefront. So I mentioned in the video, like I'm not an expert in any of those, but it's very revealing of what some of those thoughts are based off what her conversations are with like herself, with the person running the Midnight Library, like her former librarian from when she was like a young student is in like the Midnight Library as like her guide. So yeah, lots of revelations in there. So yeah, I thought it was very intriguing. It was a very deservedly so hyped up book, award-winning book. I enjoyed it. It's very fast-paced, and like I said, covers a lot of ground with like hard topics as it comes to mental health. And then we have 500 Miles From You by Jenny Colgan. So this I listened to on audiobook, but I also have the physical book, which I will hold on to, but it's nice to have a prop. But this follows 2 medical professionals, nurses. One is in Scotland in like the countryside. His name's Cormac. And then we have Lissa down in London. So Lissa witnesses a terrible, terrible accident and like has like PTSD from it and just throws her off. So she is like told to do like this residency switch program or something like that, where she switches like homes and careers in a way for a certain amount of time with this other gentleman. And they've never met, and they are only communicating through email and eventually text message to kind of figure out, because they're staying in each other's homes and seeing, okay, these are the people that you need to hang out with, or these are different places I like to go to, or this is how you maintain my home, or whatever. And it's cool because their relationship builds through, I wish I could say snail mail, but like through mail. And they well, I don't want to spoil it for it, but you pretty much can guess that they meet at some point, but the way that they get there is very interesting. And I just like the support that they have for each other, even though they've never met, and like the relationship that grows because of it. So yeah, I thought it was really cute, nice, fun, contemporary read, but does have some like more like harder topics in there. Like I said, PTSD, and then there's a trial in there, and what does it mean to be a witness and all of that. The other 3 audiobooks I've read, so one was The Selection by Kiera, and this follows a young woman as she is entered into this competition where, kind of imagine The Bachelor-ish, but it's to marry the prince, and they don't have this that often, but there's a bunch of women who enter this contest once you reach a certain age, and they meet with the prince and like go on dates with him, and then they also have group settings with the girls. But while that all is happening, this is in like a dystopian world where there's like rebels that are coming to like attack the building that they all are staying in, or like the mansion or castle, and they each have like a caste system. So even within the like the house, or like the girls, they're all different like socioeconomic statuses or different careers kind of thing. And this young woman is like, she's very honest, very upfront, like she doesn't want to be there, but then she's grappling with, she has a suitor, I guess, outside of this process, but they're not in the same caste, and it would be frowned upon if they were to move forward with anything. And then she's starting to develop feelings for this other gentleman in this process, like the prints. So yeah, I thought it was very good. I was pleasantly surprised with how much I enjoyed it. I received in the mail, for book mail, like a surprise Random Acts of Kindness kind of thing, one of the companion novels to the series. So I don't know where I could fit that in as I'm reading through the series. I do have The Elite, which is the second book in the series, on my audiobook app Libby, that I'll be reading in April. So I need to figure out where the companion book goes. But anyway, now that you know that there's a series, you know that there's going to be more to it than just this competition. And yeah, it left off on a cliffhanger of like, all right, let's go, let's get ready for the next one. So I'm excited to continue that. Then we have The Dinner by Herman Koch, and this was my Netherlands pick for Read Around the World. So this follows two different families. The gentlemen are brothers, and like their wives and their children, but the adults go out to dinner, and from the moment that they walk in and like sit down at the table through like dessert and like all the courses in between, they are going through this event that happened between their boys. And what does that mean for them? How do they protect their boys, protect themselves, and like their images and everything? Because one of the gentlemen is, I think he's up for like prime minister or some kind of like elected official position. So what does that mean for him? Because it's not a great incident, it's not a great event, and it was recorded. So what do they do from there? But lots of drama ensues and folds, and it's interesting to see like as the meals progress, like the more intense it gets. Like, oh, like we're laughing and joking with like the appetizer, but as soon as it gets to the main course, and then like the aperitif, is that what it's called, with like the coffee afterwards, or like the tea after the dessert or something, it gets like to the pinnacle or the height of intensity. So you know something's about to happen. But yeah, I thought it was very good. It does have a film adaptation, but the score wasn't good. I have it on my Hulu like saved list, but I don't know if I want to watch it because of the score being so low. And they talked about how it wasn't like very well adapted from the book, and I have a lot of thoughts about that. See my blog for more information about adaptations and like how it should be connected to the book or not. But I don't know. Besides that, there were some other like negative comments about it, so I don't know if I should watch it or not. The last book I had was State of Wonder by Ann Patchett, and this was also a Read Around the World selection for Brazil. So this follows a couple of scientists, or also like medical professionals, who are looking for not necessarily like medicines, but kind of like vaccines in the Amazon. And one of the scientists or researchers, it goes missing and is presumed dead, and one is sent to either go find him or like pick up where he left off, and we go from there. So we learn a lot about the different groups of Brazilians and like natives in that area and like their customs, which I thought was super fascinating, and how to be respectful of them as an outsider, as a visitor. So that I thought was good to address and like bring that to the forefront. I don't know, it was kind of a slower read, and I had other people comment on that as well, where I've never read anything else by Ann Patchett, but they said this was one that probably wasn't like of her top ones by her. I don't know which ones those are, but I'll have to check those out, because it was entertaining, but it didn't like have me on the edge of my seat, and I listened to it a lot when I was driving or walking around. So it was kind of like a not a calm thing, because we're talking about like people like out in the Amazon and like the threats of wildlife and all that, but it was I don't know. But yeah, add another one to the list. It wasn't enough for me to DNF it. Like I was still like somewhat intrigued, and it kind of wrapped up super fast, which I don't like when books do that. So yeah, that's that. So those are the books I read for the month of March. They were contemporary, sci-fi, and young adult in terms of genres, in case you were wondering what those were. So a little bit slower. I mean, it was only one less than the previous months, but it just felt like it dragged a little bit. I'm still reading Middle March by George Eliot. That I will finish this month in April, and then move on maybe to another chunkier book. I picked up again Written in My Own Heart's Blood by Diana Gabaldon. So that we'll see when I get to that. I will be traveling this month, so I know I'll be hitting up a few little free libraries, a few bookstores, and also donating some books. So very bookish month. We're also heading into Independent Bookstore Day, which is on April 24th. So excited for that, and all the different things that the bookstores near me and all around the country have planned. So look out for that. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up or comment down below books that you read in the month of March. What do you thought of the books that I just shared with you all? Have you read them before? Love to hear your thoughts. And feel free, I have my coffee and my wish list listed below in the description. But yeah, I hope you have a fantastic day and happy reading.